What's up guys, Maniac here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Overwatch Transformers collaboration trailer. So this caught my eye because anytime there's a combination of what I think is 2D and 3D, I have to investigate and I have to take a deeper look. And really I just want to talk about what we're looking at here and why I think it's so good. So just to be clear, this is not a reaction, this is an art and animation analysis. Those of you that watch my channel probably have no idea that I'm a gamer, but yes, I do enjoy Overwatch quite a bit, Bastion main, and I've been playing it a lot for the last few seasons actually. So naturally it warms my heart that all the characters that I actually love to play are getting skins. So we got Bastion, Ramattra, Illari, and a little Reinhardt. I also just want to say that I grew up in the 90s, so of course I know Transformers, although I will say that Transformers was more for the kids that were born in the late 70s or early 80s. You were a kid when Transformers came out on TV. When I was a kid, we had Beast Wars. If you remember Beast Wars, man, that was the thing.
Now, obliterate them!
So Transformers in general just reminds me of my childhood, but I will say I kind of missed that generation of like the die-hard fans of it. Alright, let's do it. So first off, this feels very much like Overwatch cinematics, and yet obviously it's in a 2D anime style. Looks incredible. Here we've got Bastion as Bumblebee. Awesome skin. I'm looking forward to that. Let's just go back real quick. So taking a look at the line art here, this looks very hand-drawn to me. It's possible that they use 3D models as a reference, but if I take a look at like the line work here, right here on Bastion, it's squiggly. Like you can tell that this is freehand. This is not digital. It's not like a 3D model that was converted into 2D toon shader or anything like that. This looks hand-drawn to me. I see variance in the thick and thin of the line, and so that's indicative of hand drawing. So it's possible that they had a 3D model for reference and traced over the outlines with hand-drawn ink, but it's also possible that they just drew it because the artists over there in Japan are, and I'm assuming it's Japan, are absolutely incredible and they can do that. So definitely could just be freehand. I will say it's a little surprising that in like the description for the video, there were no credits for who animated this trailer. I highly doubt that this was done by Blizzard themselves. Like it's not possible really. Like their production team is mostly in 3D, their cinematics team. And even if they did have 2D artists, it's unlikely that they could capture such a convincing anime authentic style. So no, I think this was outsourced. I think this was commissioned to capture this look and feel. Probably somebody related to the original Transformers somehow. But again, there's no credits, so I don't want to speculate. Taking a look at this shot here, I think this is absolutely beautiful. Really kind of reminiscent of Disney's multi-plane camera. So you've got several layers of the trees here, creating this feeling of parallax going on. It's perfect. There's probably about 7 or 8 layers of trees with Bastion here in the middle. So really kind of capturing classic anime and classic 2D animation techniques. I want to point out this absolutely tiny detail that is absolutely incredible and only people with a 2D animation background are going to catch. Okay, so if you look right here, you're going to see these two little lines, right? These little blue, slightly purplish lines. I believe that that is meant to be a rim light or a highlight on this tree trunk here on this layer. However, this layer is not part of that parallax. It is actually a part of this layer, okay? So when you watch it in motion, what you're gonna notice is that these two lines are actually moving at the incorrect rate. They're kind of sliding out of position. And that is a beautiful detail to make it feel more like paint. It's trying to sell you that multi-plane dimensional camera that Disney used to have, right? This is an homage to 2D traditional animation. Somebody has to do that on purpose. This is not a mistake, okay? They are doing this purely out of passion and to make this feel more authentic. And I can't believe this isn't a friggin' Overwatch trailer, guys. Absolutely awesome detail to leave in. Next up, we've got Illari as Arcee. I really like, I mean, the coolest part about this to me is actually just the scale of her. Like the only scale reference you have is this little fence post, and clearly she's huge. She's like a robot, like kaiju size. And again, just taking a look at the line work, there's nothing here that screams 3D to me. It looks very 2D. Yeah, this could totally be hand drawn. And here we've got Optimus Primehardt. I mean, this is so cool. Like I never thought that they would make a collaboration like this. Taking a look here at this coin, even this coin, like look at these glows, right? Like the glow, like there's actually like a glow, and that's not hard to accomplish in today's day and age, but it's very selective. The glow is only happening on the upper quadrant here of the coin. It's not happening on like the lower part. So on this coin, we've got two stylized bands that are specular shapes that are flat, but then within that, there's actually only the upper quadrant here that is getting affected by glow. So it's kind of cool. It just feels super shiny. Like when you look at this frame by frame, it just feels super duper shiny. Looks incredible. We've got about another 7 layers of parallax. We've got like Got this tower here. We've got this tower here. This fortress cutout is also a layer. This whole group here looks to be like one layer right there. And then obviously we've got this foreground element here, and it gives you that beautiful sense of parallax and depth. And then you've got obviously the background paintings. So when we play it over at half speed here, you can kind of get a sense of the parallax going on. And the way that parallax creates a realistic sense of depth is that things that are closer to camera move faster, more quickly than things that are far off in the distance. So for example, this thing on screen, right, this pillar structure here is moving at a faster rate than all the other objects in the scene. And as we get deeper into space towards the horizon, things start moving a little bit less. And so you can see that by the time we reach this grouping over here in the midground, it's moving quite a bit slower, but creates an amazing sense of depth. Looking at Reinhardt himself, again, I think that these are just drawn. They're just fantastic artists. I don't really think that they needed 3D for this in any capacity, actually. So yeah, on closer inspection, it looks just hand-drawn to me. Backgrounds are hand-painted. They could be traditional media, but it's most likely probably just some kind of Photoshop, although it does feels like gouache, feels like acrylics. It feels very, very traditional in the best way. It feels very vintage. This whole thing just feels like we're watching the old 80s cartoon. And as they say, everything old is new again, right? So these techniques of trying to make it feel aged kind of from that time period is a stylistic choice. It's deliberate, it's intentional, and it actually takes quite a bit of an understanding to get that kind of nostalgic feel into the art. It doesn't just happen. Like if you pop the current day tools with their default settings and everything, it doesn't look like this. You have to add that love in. This is purely made out of passion, and that's why I think it's so well done, is because they were aware of these stylistic choices and they made those stylistic choices for the fans, for the audience, to feel a connection to the old Transformers. Next up, we've got Ramattra as Megatron. Let's slow this down. Oh man, dude, there's just so much cool stuff happening here if we slow this down. So I don't know, like the to be honest with you, I'm ashamed to say, like I don't know the lore of either Transformers or Overwatch, or why Ramattra is sitting here with all these candles. Somebody please inform me. I got some friends that are like really into the lore of everything, and so they're gonna probably crush me on this, but yeah, I do not know. Classic anime glows and swirls and glints. Absolutely awesome. If you look at it, one of the things that I've noticed that's really cool, there's actually not a lot of frames, and obviously you don't want to be drawing a robot 1,000 times, so you want to try and draw it as few times as possible. You want to try and get as much mileage out of each drawing because it's complex to draw. Even just like a simple rotation of like his arm, that's a lot of work to keep all those objects in perspective, all the line work of the robotic panels and everything. It's hard to do, and that's why a lot of things like, for example, Iron Giant, the movie back in the day, the Iron Giant is actually 3D, and then it's easier to convert that 3D model into a 2D look than it is to actually hand draw a 3D object with that much complexity. And so this to me looks like it's shot on 2s, which means that in classic animation fashion, the drawing only changes every 2 frames. It doesn't change every frame. It's like one drawing lasts for 2 frames. And one of the things that we're going to see later on that I found really interesting is that even though it's shot on 2s, the lighting and effects is on 1s. So you'll have a drawing that holds for 2 frames, but the lighting effects change every frame. And we'll take a look at that later. There's something about these glints that I just find so satisfying. The way that it's just so simple. It becomes one line right there, right? Beautiful. It comes out as so crispy, so sharp. There's something very sharp about these effects. Catchy slicing, right? I love it. Graphic treatment. We've talked about this before on this channel. We've got these anticipation frames. We've talked about this before on my channel, but basically if you want to make something feel really bright, like once you get to like maximum whiteness, right, you have to contrast that with something dark in order for the brightness to feel brighter. And so you'll often get these kind of inverted frames of anticipation, visual anticipation, to invert the visual style so that your brain can't even interpret what's happening, and it just makes it feel brighter. So you'll often get these frames where it cuts to something dark for like a couple frames and then it switches back to bright to really kick you in the face. So again, just watching this part over because I love it. Just taking a look at the effects here. We've got a couple frames where the color just washes out completely, switches to black and white. Very, very cool. In this case, it's not even 2 frames, literally just 1 frame of that effect. So we see in the sky, you can see the outline of the Ramattra's effect going up into the sky. The glows get more intense. The color shifts a little bit on the weapon here. 1 frame of black and white. And actually, that's really cool. I just noticed, but the background, if you keep your eye here on the background element, you'll see that the trees have color, like there's tones of green, and then it switches after the black and white, and it becomes purple, permanently purple. So monochrome. It's like the world is infected with this color. Man, they're just so good at effects. It's just wild. It's so expressive, and that's really what the effects contribute to anime animations as far as I'm concerned. I'm not like a huge anime fan. Again, I apologize, but I can appreciate the work, and I can appreciate the feeling that they always just nail. They go for it. It's like an extension of the gesture, of the combat, of the ferociousness, of the violence. It really assists the action that you see on screen. And even this is hype, man. Just this little glint being the transition factor here. So we go from Optimus Prime, this little glint in his eye, enlarges, sparkles, again with the invert frames, and we get back to Ramattra. There's this thing in animation called eye trace. So, you know, the purpose of this shot, or not the purpose, but like the focal point is obviously right here. Here, let me indicate this for you. So obviously the focal point is right there on the glint. And then we kind of follow the glint from that location. So let's say we started like here. We kind of follow the glint. So we're still looking at this rough location, but now we're traveling over here. So our eye, and then our eye, if you just notice that we literally went from this place, kind of following, ignore this frame here, we're kind of following the glint down to here. So you kind of have this motion of going like that. That is eye trace, and that's deliberate again. Conversely, the opposite would be like to put your attention here, and then the next shot, the focal point down here in the bottom left corner. Your eye has to jump like that, and it's not comfortable. It's not a pleasurable viewing experience. So you'll see in animation, there's a lot of this deliberate eye flow. Again, with, you know, these poses are pretty limited, right? Like they're getting a lot of mileage out of each pose. So let's see. See, this is what I mean. This is one drawing, right? But it's holding for 2 frames. 1, 2, switch. 1, 2, switch. Right? 1. Nope, 1 frame. 1, 2, switch. 1, 2. So it's basically, I guess in some of the higher into action frames, they kind of do go to ones. But still, this is like one drawing that they're reusing multiple times. And here's our boy Bastion. Let's watch it at full speed. Man, there's a lot going on there. Let's take another quick look at that. Here's our boy Bastion coming in. Transforms to this little bumblebee car. Turrets out. I really hope it looks like this, man. Like the Cowboy Bebop thing. I mean, the translation from the 2D trailer to the in-game can be a little different, you know? But I really hope it's even half as cool as that little car. Like, man, it'll be just fun. I need some Bastion skins, man. I'm kind of hurting for Bastion skins right now. They make it look so epic too. Like, check this out, man. Again, playing with those different layers of the foreground. This is what animation can do. You can really push the storytelling. You got these bullet cartridges flying in the foreground in your face, helping with the eye trace to follow him as he goes through this swerve. It's got the turret out. Looks just like the Overwatch one. I really like too that they actually used the Overwatch spells, like not spells but abilities. We'll see here in a sec. Let's move on. Got Illari with her ultimate. Face the sunrise, boys. This is probably one of the most complex objects in the whole scene is her weapon. Like, that is pretty complex. But again, these guys are absolute pros. They can draw anything. But I do think that for me, it would be a lot easier to just have a 3D model as a base. You've got a lot of perspective distortion here. You know, obviously this gun is absolutely massive up front. Her torso is like so tiny in the frame. So this looks to me like a drawing. And yeah, that's the complexity I'm talking about. So I don't know. I have no idea if there's a 3D model underneath this or not. Even as a reference, even if they traced it over, it's very possible. It would make life easier, make it quicker to draw, but these guys are absolute pros. They could do it without it. Look at these effects, man. Holy crap. Check that out. That is beautiful work. Look how explosive that feels. Let's watch this again. What are we even looking at here, man? Okay. So if you try and like break down like the action, this is what we're really dealing with. Is we've got this animation of Illari as Arcee. We've got a painted background. This frame right here, very simple. Same thing, but we're introducing now the effects. Obviously, we've got some glow happening here. So there's a lot of color jitter going on here. Look at that camera switch from this angle to down to her face here. We've got the hand-drawn motion blur, classic anime feature. Looks to me like this is just a drawing with like a low opacity motion blur effect going on above. And this shot is just way too cool. That's iconic, man. Again, with the invert frame, massive bright effect. Look at this energy line discharge right here. It kind of captures the same rectangular shape for a brief second as the weapon. And all these beautiful bolts of electricity going in between. As well as this kind of huge spherical, cylindrical energy field that's blasting away from the power of the weapon itself. I love it, man. It's just chaos. Like, who knows? Like, there's no rule book that says that you should put in a frame like this, right? We go from this to this in like a fraction of a second, and then this. When you do 2D animation, you actually realize like how much opportunity there is for frame play. And this is exactly what I mean when like I say frame play. This is not stuff that you see. It's stuff that you feel. And so when you play it back at full speed, it just feels epic. It feels like explosive. It feels all the right emotions that you're supposed to be feeling when you watch this stuff. But it's, you know, when you break it down to like what you're actually seeing to trick the brain into power, these are the tricks. Frame inverts. Don't you just love it? I freaking love this animation. I love that they're actually using the spells. You've got Illari's ultimate, you've got Ramattra's shield. And I just feel so epic, the scale that they've added. Reinhardt looks amazing coming in here with his hammer. Look at this pose. Look at that camera angle. I just love this dynamic posing and the pushing of the field of view perspective. Like everything's squished. You get a real sense of the depth. Look how small Optimus Prime, his head looks here, right? His fist is huge. Incredible posing. Look at these frames. Let's go through it one by one. Black and white shapes. It's not even a pure invert, right? Like if you look at his silhouette, it's still black. Still black in this frame here. It's just, it unveils more of the background as white over time. Still not a true invert. The highlight has kind of shifted. We're getting some, obviously the rocks flying up from above. It's just chaos. That's incredible frame play. When you're working in 2D animation, I just want to say this one more time. You know, each drawing has to come out slowly, right? When we're watching it, it's going by really, really quick. But you have a lot of opportunities. You know, this drawing probably took, you know, an hour, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. But the point is, when you're working on stuff like this, you know how epic it is because you're imagining where the animation is going. You're thinking, I can tell you as a former 2D animator that the entire time you're purely thinking about what the audience is going to feel. And a shot like this, you know, when you're animating it, dude, you're in there, your tongue's out, you're drawing, you're like, holy crap, these guys are going to feel the coolest explosion they've ever seen, right? I love how small he starts off in the frame. And then by the time he lands, his boots are like filling up the entire picture. Oh, no, it's a butt shot. But still, you get the point, right? Like that is so cool. Got those energy lines going to sell the action. And even I love how the background itself in anime, like the lines on the ground, you know, like the blast marks, the burn marks, they all kind of feel like they're going towards the vanishing point off in the upper right hand corner. Really sells that depth and perspective. And let's just appreciate for a second these beautiful glows. Incredible. I love how the glows themselves, there's more going on here. It's not just one flat hue of blue with a glow effect. Like there's some variance in there. Like there's a little bit of a lighter blue inside this. A very subtle shift in color. It kind of makes it feel a little bit like it has a little bit more depth. Just incredible effects. If you guys have ever seen the like 2D hand-drawn water effects that Disney has in their archives or other animations, you wouldn't believe how time-consuming that stuff is to do like water in 2D. Oh my god, it really gives you an appreciation for this type of special effects 2D handcrafted stuff. I love how hard they go here with Ramattra switching into his Omnic form. Look at this, man. This is wild. They went so hard on this. Okay, so let's see how this transition happens. This is probably one of the most complex animation sequences right here because of all the parts. Look at that. Look at that frame switch. We're going from like this rectangular boxy limb here to this tube. That is quite a dramatic switch. Massive arms. I mean, to be fair, in the game, it kind of feels exactly like this. They sell it so well. Classic invert frames here. Arcing glints and magic coming out of his fists. Any opportunity to put something glowing, man, that's anime in a nutshell. I love how they captured the punching ability, man. This is boxing mode right here. So interesting that the motion blur is actually acting separately. You know, usually a lot of times it's built into the drawing itself, the motion blur, but in this case it looks like actual overlays, transparent overlays on top to sell the motion blur here. Some smearing going on. And if you didn't notice, this high action sequence is all on ones. No 2-frame hold going on here. Dude, the perspective on this thing, man. Look at this. We're like looking up at Optimus Prime. Everything, all the lines are converging upwards like this, right? Epic. Epic, epic, epic. He's got his hammer going like this. Ramattra firing weapon beams like that. That is the composition right there, man. That is, look at the, that is so cool. They're having so much fun with this. This part definitely made me wonder, you know, if they actually use 3D models at any point. Again, it would just make life so much easier. Like even that little frame change right there. Sure, absolutely, 100%. You could just draw that. But it just feels very consistent to me. Everything is moving like a 3D model. Like it's almost just too perfect. Like that right, this frame right here to here, because you can just see the outlines in this case. It just feels a lot like a 3D rig to me. Everything is moving just like a 3D model would. So yeah, this part just makes me question if it's 3D. I think it's very possible that there's underlying 3D, basic, even just like a basic 3D geometry if they wanted to serve as a reference or as a guide for the 2D artist. But again, I don't want to insult the 2D artists because they really can draw like this. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. But that part right here just made me kind of wonder, kind of feels a little 3D. Maybe, we don't know. Still impressive work. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. I'm just kind of curious how they did it. I'm always just curious how they accomplished these amazing things. And then we go to the finale here. So really like a perfect length animation. I know it's just a trailer for the, you know, some skins really, but dude, friggin' incredible work. I loved this whole thing. I think this is one of the coolest things that Blizzard has put together with their collaborations. I enjoyed the Cowboy Bebop one too, but man, the artwork, I'm just talking artwork here, boys. Like this is so good. I appreciate everything in this, the craftsmanship that went into this. I didn't mention, yeah, like this coin here. I love how when the coin flips, it's like it's flipping from the Decepticon to the Autobots logo. I don't know, is Optimus kind of deciding? Maybe this is something, a lore thing that I don't know about, but yeah. Got the Autobots and the Decepticons. At the end of the day, I think the only thing we can say for sure is that my wallet is not safe.